It is that time again for another deck review, and this time a goodie but old, or oldie but goodie. I didn't even say that right, but I'm actually not even really sure if it is a goodie. I personally don't really love this deck, but Scouts. Why are we going over it? Because it's still good since the beginning of the game. This card called Vanguard Bannerman, its thing. Basically, any mid-range Demacia deck is good because of Bannerman. But now we get things like Genevieve and Misfortune and Quinn and all these shenanigans that work pretty freaking well. And this is a great deck to climb ladder and also, get through games pretty quick too if you're not one for those grindy control type games. So, as always, my name is Justin, also known as Shit Just Works. You are in the right spot for Legends of Runeterra content. We are going to get through the deck itself. So I'm going to go through the actual deck list in the game client. And then we got 2 games coming up where you guys can see this deck in action. Let's go. Alright, so let's get started going through this deck. You'll notice the name is 1 + 1 = 2. There's a reason for that. Why? Well, as long as you can match the number on, I've said this, I feel like I've said this during a million casts too for Demacia. So, listen, it does take some skill to play this deck. I'm not going to lie, especially in the mirror match. You're going to kind of know what trades to take, what trades not take. In control matchups, you need to know when to be aggressive, when to not be aggressive, stuff like that. But, generally speaking, if the turn matches the number on the card, then you can just play the card and you attack and you press A and you're good. So just throw that out there. But anyways, all right, let's get through this deck. You do notice, first off, only 3 Bilgewater cards. That's mainly because we want to make sure that this bad boy goes off every single time it's played because, God, this is a feels bad man moment when you miss Bannerman. I don't think I've ever played a Bannerman deck with more than 5 of the other region. Generally, I want to try to keep it at 3, which is one of the higher rates of success that you're going to get with Bannerman. And some people have even managed to just go straight mono Demacia, specifically because they don't want to miss Bannerman. But when you do that and miss out on something like Misfortune, you kind of defeat the purpose of this particular version of Demacia, which is Scouts. So we got Misfortune and Quinn. I think it goes without saying that both of these cards kind of go off of each other. Quinn providing more scout units to attack more often. Misfortune, obviously, same deal. She levels up by attacking more often. We have the 2 copies of Relentless Pursuit in here as well. I am not a fan of playing 3 Relentless Pursuit. I'm just going to throw that out there. That might be a question you ask. Hey, let's just GM a 3rd Relentless Pursuit in here. It feels incredibly bad to get a lot of these in hand, and I can't tell you how many games I've casted and how many games I've seen where people are stuck with this card either because they've drawn multiple copies, which, that's just bad luck, can't really help that, or they hold on to it too long waiting for the perfect turn to play it. And I think actually in one of these 2 games, you're going to see me actually play a Relentless Pursuit where it might not have been the best possible time to play the card, but I did just want to rip it, get it out there, and just get that additional attack through so I'm not wasting the Relentless Pursuit. So, in addition to that, we got the normal, Demacia type lineup. We got the 3 Sith, we have the 3 Fleet Feather to make sure we get the 1 drops. We got the usual 2 drops in Bright Steel and War Chefs. Laurent Protégé is now back and better than ever. He's been, basically since Loyal Badger Bear got nerfed down from 4 attack to 3, Laurent has seen a little bit of an increase in play. He is paired alongside Misfortune in the 3-drop spot. Challenger is also incredibly good, and Laurent as well, just being that he's got 4 health with that Challenger tag, can almost always pick off 2 units. As long as he's obviously picking off something with less than 4 attack, which generally speaking against a lot of decks, you will be able to do just that. And in the mirror match, he's also very good to kind of get you back in the game if you're top decking or something like that against maybe some smaller units on the board. Grizzled Ranger and Vanguard in there, and Quinn as the 5-drop. So, and obviously Genevieve is one of the reasons why Scouts is just amazing now. She is absolutely incredible, always going to get you a ton of value the turn she's played. But I do want to go over the spells right quick. You do see a back-to-back in here. Seen a little bit more play lately. I do like this card. You can take this out if you want. Maybe replace it with another Riposte. There is 1 copy of Riposte in here, if anything, just to ensure your opponent plays around it, which is definitely an advantage because this can be the extra 3 damage you need to close out a game. And Relentless we went over. Ranger's Resolve. This card is so good in this deck. The amount of value that you can get out of a 1-cost burst speed spell is nuts. This can sometimes save like 3 units in a turn for 1 mana, and that's crazy. And again, in the mirror match, this card does work. It's so good. So, but that's it. That's the deck. We're going to go through some more examples of how I actually play it in these next 2 games here. So stick around. Those are coming right up. All right, so we have our first matchup here is Sejuani and Gangplank. This is another super popular deck as of late, playing the Monkey Idols and other shenanigans to try to proc Gangplank and Sejuani's level up super fast. So it is another quite aggressive deck. Generally speaking, I think Bannerman has a decent matchup against this deck just because your units are going to be a little bit stronger early on. And they really need to draw like Gangplank, Sejuani, on curve, maybe 5 and 6. While also being ahead on board, which is going to be difficult for them to do because usually by turn 5 or 6 you have such a big board where you usually can get down a Genevieve and just kind of close things out. You can see here we don't get a 1-drop. God, it feels so bad in this deck to not get a 1-drop. You 100% want to mulligan and try to dig for a 1-drop, whether it's Cithria or Fleet Feather. Just gives you so much more fuel to get towards something like a Bannerman. And you can see here we have a Bannerman in our hand. So one of the things you want to take into consideration is, do you play it now, or do you try to go wider and be greedy, right? It's just like, Trifarian Assessor. Do you just play it when you can draw 1 or 2, or do you try to go wider, get some more draws off of it? In this particular scenario, you want to go based on the matchup. We know this deck that we're up against here, this Gangplank Sejuani, is trying to be aggressive. We know that they're probably not really going to have a lot of removal to deal with the units that we do have on board, especially because everything we had at least 3 health. It's not dying, so we can let an attack through, take some damage, set up the Bannerman. This is what we do here. So now we get the Bannerman on 3 other units, buffing up not only Misfortune, which is insane to get her up to 4 health. That's incredibly good. And then the War Chef's buffing her up again here. The Laurent Protege being at 3 attack, 5 health is insane. A 3 attack Challenger unit puts in a lot of work. And you'll see that here. I mean, he's going to be able to pick off something else unless it gets removed in the next couple of turns. So we do see this Gangplank. So like we mentioned, the Gangplank's coming down. I actually remember this parlay going off too. I'm not going to lie. I'm pretty sure I should have just let this through. But my opponent actually plays Fury of the North in response to this single combat on... I always forget that. Prowling Cutthroat. There we go. Got it. See, these videos are really just practice for my casting. I just need to remember all these freaking cards. Yeah, so actually this works out for me because I'd rather the single combat draw out something like the Fury of the North than them summon another unit and go wider. Like, I want to be the one with the more tempo on the board. So definitely not a bad thing here. We do have a Keg, and Make It Rain is an option for our opponent, so we got to make sure we're kind of playing around that. Here, we are actually able to get rid of the Cutthroat. Again, luckily we have another single combat. There are 3 copies of single combat in this deck. This is why single combat is in this deck. If your opponent at any point is trying to gain tempo on you, single combat can a lot of times get that back. In this case, we're actually using it to preserve our health. That Cutthroat representing 5 damage is kind of dangerous versus something like Gangplank Sejuani. Plus, we know that we had another unit in the Laurent Protege to follow up with and just give us a really, really good attack on the following turn. We don't need to pull the Keg. We actually don't even want to pull the Keg here because we represent lethal. I think I throw it back. Yeah, there we go. There we go! Justin, you was a smart guy there. We do see the Make It Rain finally, but all of our units are outside of the Make It Rain damage, which feels so good. And that's why Bannerman is good. That's why, especially in this matchup, like, if really their only primary source of removal is Make It Rain, you are A-okay to try to go wide with units that have 3 or 4 health like we did with the Laurent Protege, War Chefs, Misfortune. So just keep that in mind when you are going at these games with the Demacia deck. But we do get the dream here. This is the dream. This is, like, look, this is all followers and a Misfortune already in our first hand. We got the 1-drop. We got the 2-drop with the 3 health and War Chefs. We have even the Brightsteel if we want. I mean, Brightsteel usually you want to combo with something like a Challenger unit, a Valor summoned by a Quinn, or a Fleet Feather Tracker or something like that. In this case, we blow down the Misfortune. This deck that we're up against now is kind of one of those hyper aggressive They Who Endure. I actually think we start seeing some of that Mistwraith card, Risen Mists. I think that's it. And the burst speed summon a Mistwraith. So I'm not sure if this is They Who Endure or not. I imagine it has to be, being in Freljord. But either way, what I'm getting at here is this is another super aggressive deck, right? So we know our units aren't going to get removed. So we can go ham. We can summon everything. All we really need to worry about is 1 damage removal, like something like Vile Feast if it's played, or Unspeakable Horror. And then, which kind of is unfortunate with our field now. We do have the Grizzled Ranger and the Fleet Feather Tracker. Or just, trading, right? So we have something like Callista on the field. We have the other Mistwraith on the field. They do have 3 health. So we just need to be making smart trades. And in matchups like this, or specifically in the mirror match, math is difficult. It's all I'm going to say is math is difficult. You really got to think about, okay, if I attack with the Loyal Badger Bear, what is my opponent most likely going to block with that's going to get them the most value with that block? You need to make sure you're always making positive trades here. So right here, as you can see, like with this attack, I am perfectly okay with this. Actually surprised he didn't try to value block with that Mistwraith there. That probably would have helped my opponent survive a little bit longer, but that's what you want to try to avoid. You want to try to avoid your opponent value blocking your things down. You want to be the ones getting the value trades, especially if you're able to get something like a Bannerman on the board. In this case, we just go wide because we don't care anymore. We're going to win the game pretty soon. And this is what I mean. Like and I think I made a video on this a while ago too. One of the most important things, and one of the things that's going to pick you up the most wins on something like ladder, is simply playing to what you think your opponent has in their deck. Generally speaking, different champions in different regions combined together are going to be specific deck archetypes, especially when you're higher up on the ladder. It's not going to be this random mishmash of cards. It's going to be a constructed deck that has a thought out strategy. And you can look up any of these decks online. When you know that, just like people know what I'm playing in Scouts, they know what's in this deck for the most part. There's some variations with like riposte and stuff like that, but when you know that and you apply that to your gameplay, that's when you're gonna win games, because it's like you're predicting the future, man. You're psychic. You know what they have. You know what they're gonna play, and when you're able to play the game like that, you pick yourself up wins. All right, everybody, that is Misfortune Quinn, Scouts. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's a very easy deck to play, and it actually can be a little bit fun. I always give Bannerman decks crap for being, just play the number on the card and being really easy to play, but they do get the job done. They get you wins, and honestly, with how quick you can get wins sometimes with this deck, everybody likes winning, right? So obviously it's fun to win. So it's still a fun deck. But with that said, that is the end of the video. Real quick, just want to shout out the Duels of Runeterra qualifier for their $2,000 invitational. Their Discord link will be in the description below if you want to go ahead, join the Discord, figure out whatever information you need to join the tournament. It is free to join for the qualifier, and if you win, or you get like a top spot or something in the qualifier, you are able to qualify for that $2,000 invitational against some of the biggest players in the game. So check it out if you want. But as always, everybody stay healthy, stay positive. I hope shit just works for you, and peace out.